Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, we saw the markets really just drift lower, and then actually our solar stocks got slammed today, and we're going to get into a little bit more on the reasoning why later. But tensions are starting to boil up in the Middle East, making investors a little uncertain. So the selling has persisted most of the afternoon. So let's jump into the data to review what happened today. As we see here on the market summary board, we've got the Dow Jones down 0.75%, NASDAQ down 0.82%, S&P 500 down 0.83%. U.S. oil is a recipient of some investor funds and capital, up 4.7%. Gold is basically flat, and Bitcoin was under some pressure too, down 1.76%. So let's jump into the heat map, and you can see here, as displayed from that market summary board, we've got a lot of red on the screen. Nothing's down very significant aside from solar stocks. But as you see here, Microsoft in essence flat, Google's flat, Nvidia's flat, Meta and Apple are down nearly 1.4% for Apple and almost 1% on Meta. AVGO down 0.86%. Netflix down, Oracle down, Palantir down. So a lot of the high flyers are receiving selling pressure today, pulling the price down on the stocks. So we jump into the SPX, and we see here, we've been looking at this trend line for quite a while now, folks. Maintaining price above this trend line has proven to be difficult, at least for the near term, with the tensions in the Middle East. We see that we have here on Friday, we broke down underneath. Then on Monday, we broke above. And then today, now we're selling back down underneath this trend line. If the selling pressure continues, we'll be looking at support down here at 58.34. So keep that on the radar. Also, I want to point out right here that the trend on the SPX has now shifted. Everything has now changed because we're not continuing up on this inclining trend line right now. We're starting to break and at least put in consolidation. We'll see if this is going to turn out to be a rounded top and have a bull trap, much like what we had happened back here in February. Into the Qs, very similar formation that's occurring here on the charts, ever so close to our all-time highs right up here at 540.81. This rounded top is starting to take more shape, and we'll see how this progresses in the coming days if we start making lower lows here on this side of the trend on the Qs. Into SMH. The SMH actually above them all is still faring very strong. You can see here with this trend line, as I pointed out with the SPX, we have already broken trend, but we have not done so yet on the SMH. And you notice here, prices moved up, tagged this trend line, and continued to move up. We'll see in the coming days if we do break through this trend line. But again, guys, I've said this to you before, the semis are leading indicators, right? So I like to follow the semis, especially when we're starting to change trend or there's an opportunity to change trend. If you follow the semis and they're going higher, the markets are also likely going to go higher. So we're kind of at a crossroads right now where the spiders have broken trend. The SMH, though, is not, and is still saying we could go higher. So we'll see what good news develops later this week to eventually make that be the case, or if the SMH is going to break right here and then start coming back down. And if so, this trend line right here is going to be the first major area of support, which also corresponds with these pivot highs, roughly about 247.86 on that chart. Into the IWM. Now, the IWM, as we have mentioned too, has broken out of this declining trend line, and it does have a lot of room to move up should price action maintain above this trend line. That's the most important thing. Yesterday we did tag, or 2 days ago, we tagged the support here on Friday's trading action. Monday we bounced up. Right now we're retesting that support area today. If we come down any further, this trend line will be support for the IWM, located roughly around 203.30. Into Bitcoin. You see here, Bitcoin, this was an interesting story. So yesterday we had a bull flag scenario. Let's zoom into the 10 chart, or to the 10-minute chart. We had a bull flag right here, broke back above this 50% area of the parallel, but couldn't hold it. You see here, Monday night, 640, selling pressure kicked in, and then by the end of the trading day for Bitcoin, we were now trading underneath that 50% area of the parallel. So it got rejected right there at the initial resistance area here. So now prices come down, and today, where do we catch support? On this inclining trend line. So there's really nothing to hide here on this chart with all this technical analysis that's displayed right now for you on the on this Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if it does maintain, it can maintain in this area and just bounce back and forth for several weeks. But then once it breaks, the next area of support is right here at 98,373, waiting for price to come down to the bottom end of this parallel channel. Next up, we've got gold. Now, the other day I did mention, and we've been talking about how we've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern on gold with a potential measured move target up to $3,621. Today, as we mentioned, gold went basically flat. But there's a couple things to consider for a move up higher, breaking these all-time highs and also the topping tail. Well, one, the topping tail is a bear signal. That'll be hard to beat. Two, there's a weekly topping tail, as we've seen before on this chart. Weekly topping tail and daily topping tail, double dose of bearish obstacle to overcome moving higher. And then lastly, whenever you have a bull flag pattern, and this is more of an educational note, whenever you have a bull flag pattern up at the top of the charts, or like this, an inverse head and shoulders pattern up at the top of the charts, they typically fail. And so you need to understand, or at least expect, a failed move up here. And anytime you have a failed move, they usually have the result from that usually is a bigger move in the opposite direction. So this is all very critical for gold. Even though it seems like we're moving sideways right now, be watching the all-time highs. Once we get up there, do we then start selling off and pushing down on gold? But very curious that this bullish pattern is developed at the top of the charts, which usually dictates a failed move. So just keep that in mind. Next up, we've got silver. Silver, amazing move on silver. We've been talking about this for quite some time. The nice stair-step pattern, consolidating, very, very little consolidation here, and then beautiful consolidation here and another push higher on silver. Well, next stop for silver is going to be up here at $38.97. Would still consider potential more consolidation in between here and up at that measured move target. So don't be surprised if we move a little higher, have a little pullback, and then continue moving up to tag that measured move. And now I've got a quick video for you to show you some information regarding our investor empowerment day that's going to occur next week on June 23rd. Check it out. Hey, big shout out to our IT department. They can make anybody look like superheroes, like part of the Avengers. Very cool video there. But I hope you guys take the time to join us on Monday. We're going to have a lot of great specials. All those traders you saw there are going to be here doing some live shows and live footage for you guys. Plus, we're going to have promotions on our education. All right, back into the charts. So we see U.S. oil here, another fantastic push higher, but we did not get up to the top of the candle that was registered here on Friday. So we need to confirm above this declining trend line. And then also one thing to keep in mind, the uncertainty here with what the conflicts going on in the Middle East is really driving the emotions for folks to invest into oil. There's oil produced all over the world. And so eventually, once we get more certainty in the Middle East, I imagine that this buying pressure will go away and then the selling pressure will resume back again. Now, keep in mind, the United States is fighting inflation. That's been something Jerome Powell's been talking about for years, right? We want to cut the rates, but in order to do so, we need to have inflation down. All the readings with lower inflation came over the last couple of months when oil was now lower than the current price. So you got to consider that and keep that in mind. If oil is going to be pushing higher, that would put pressure also on inflation, as most of our goods are transported through different means that involve oil consumption. All right. So the likelihood of oil staying up here for a longer time, I think, is lower than potentially oil coming back down underneath these trend lines. But we'll see if we confirm in the coming days above this inclining trend line and this declining trend line. Still has yet to happen. Next up, Nat Gas. Nat Gas also started pushing higher. This is an amazing chart here on Nat Gas. Initial resistance is going to be right here at this pivot, and albeit minor, right about $4. But the major resistance and test for Nat Gas is going to be up here at $4.18. Next up, the DXY, and we're skipping the 10-year yield. It basically stayed flat today, consolidating across the chart. So we see here the DXY, the dollar, this declining trend line. We're coming back to attack it again. So we'll be monitoring this tomorrow to see if the DXY can finally break this downtrend and start marching back up on the charts. You can see here, this area caught support with trend line originated back in July of 2023, strung together all the way to the next major pivot. And you see price collected right in that area and has since bounced up. Next up, we've got First Solar, FSLR. Now, First Solar, as well as some of the other solar stocks, really took a beating today. And they did so because in the Senate, with this big, beautiful bill that's supposed to be passed, the senators started taking out potential solar tax credits for moving forward. But they also said this isn't certain. This is something they proposed. And they also said they were going to propose to phase this solar tax credit out by 2028. So they're not going to phase it out tomorrow. So this was, I think, an immediate overreaction and selling pressure on solar stocks, which could present buying opportunities in the very near to midterm for nice bounces on the charts. So let's get into analyzing some of these positions. So into First Solar right here, you can see price action yesterday closed right up here at the $175 range. And then this morning, if I move the price action up away from the volume, you can see price opened up this morning around 137.50, pierced this trend line. You can see strung together from pivot high to the very next pivot. And if you want to learn how to draw these trend lines, do yourself a favor, get yourself one of our educational courses this coming Monday. Should it be the Winning Trader series or my educational video, Mastering the Overnight Trade, the sleeper hold, both of which go through trend line analysis and how and where to draw the most critical trend lines to get bounces like you see here on First Solar. So, all right, so First Solar, as you see, it bounced up. It recovered quite a bit, although it's down 17.89%, a huge down day for First Solar. It's not finishing near the lows of the charts. So this tells me, again, with a high volume spike too, this could be forming a near-term bottom on the charts. We'll see if we start attacking this trend line in the near future and then eventually breaking higher. So this could be a decent spot to start accumulating some solar stocks for a long swing play. And it's not going to be a long-term play. It'll likely be a near to midterm play, but this area should provide enough support. Should price continue moving down, we'll be looking at this low pivot area right around $120 for that then continued bounce, move up and attack that trend line. Next up, SEDG. This is Solar Edge. Solar Edge saw another mammoth drop on the charts, but again, it's not closing at the bottom of the day, at the candle here. You can see also this volume candle just simply dwarfs everything else in near history on the charts. That's telling me, yes, there were a lot of sellers, but there were also a lot of buyers. Seeing this is kind of, it's a wishy-washy news story where it's not 100% certain that this bill is even going to be passed through Senate. These were simply proposals of changes to the bill. And so really, this may be an overreaction and could be a great accumulating area for a near-term bounce. Should price action continue to sell a little further, this trend line right here at $13.56 will catch that support. But in the near term, this is looking like, and it doesn't qualify for a bottoming tail, but it does take the shape of a bottoming tail right here. That means there's a lot of buying pressure and investors interested in getting back into SEDG at these discounted prices. Next up, we've got Reddit. Now, Reddit did have some good news today. It did explode higher regarding a new avenue for them to start selling media and potential advertising space for other companies to take advantage of the Reddit comment boards. The comment boards that Reddit has, they have a myriad of different comments for every post, and there's now AI that can digest those comments with the help of other advertising companies and insert those ads amongst the comment field. So there's another avenue for potential revenue for Reddit, which Reddit exploded up higher, opened to the day right where it closed. You can see price action excelled through the first area of resistance and came right back down, but most importantly, closed above these pivots. We'll see if we have a retrace like what normally happens when price breaks out of a trend line, which then could be a great buying opportunity down here at 124.66 for ultimately another run up and attack of this trend line, which would likely correspond with the next resistance level of 155.08. Next up, we've got Hood. Now, I wanted to show you Hood for a couple reasons. Hood has received a lot of inflow of capital over the last several weeks. Look at this tremendous run that Hood's been on. But if I scroll back on the charts, you see we have some major long-term resistance trend lines that Hood has been piercing, trying to get above, and has not yet successfully done so. But then also notice we've got a topping tail here on the chart. And so topping tails, being that they are bearish, look at this pattern that's formed off the topping tail. That's inside bar bearish consolidation. Even though it's at the high end of the near-term part of this chart, this is now showing us that price action is likely going to start curling over and coming down to the $66.44 area, which would be the first area of support, with major support being on this inclining trend line right here at 53.42. This bust up through this area of the trend line, likely from what I see in the charts, is not going to happen in the near term, and a pullback is in order for continued price action moving higher with Hood. Next up, UAL. UAL had a decent down day today, down 6.2%. But if you notice, we've had price now come back into this inclining parallel channel, and several attempts have tried to go up and get back above this parallel and have since failed. With price action falling back down today, that opens the door for more downside, which support would lie on this declining trend line. You can see this is almost like a hidden trend line amongst price action. But when price has initially come up to it, it had resistance. And then when price came back down, it bounced, paused right here in this area. And then finally, when price came up, it got rejected here and then came down and got a bounce right off that trend line. So this trend line is proven to be a significant area on the charts for UAL. Now, if price keeps coming down, we're looking roughly about $66, $65.75 right there in that range. Should be a good bounce play opportunity for UAL. If it takes a little bit of time to get there, that 50% area right here on the chart at $62.50 will then provide the best support. But monitor that trend line. That way you can see when there's a good opportunity for a bounce play on UAL. All right, guys, that wraps up Trading the Close. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. My name is Drew Dosek. Look forward to being back on the charts and seeing you all tomorrow. Until then, take care.